I think so-called Buddhism can play, can contribute a lot for modern world. So I'd like to offer my gratitude for all the different organizers for creating this situation so that this conversation can happen. You know, in the entire Buddhist classic texts, commentaries, there's not a single word that is called Buddhism. There's no word such as Buddhism, there's no word such as Hinduism. I think these words are mainly created by Persians. I don't know whether you know this or not, but word Hinduism is basically a mispronounced word Sindhu. Buddhism is never a byproduct or a consequence of a political upheaval. It was purely byproduct of curiosity and quest for science or truth, actually. But at this age, now, these days, Buddhism will never escape from the basket of religion. As a Buddhist myself, we feel many times frustrated, but we have to live with it. How would you feel if one day someone comes and say, mathematics is a religion, or astrophysics are religious people? As a scientist, you will feel very frustrated. That's how we feel. But we also feel, we also understand why Buddhism gets categorized as something religious, because there is a lot of element that looks like religion, especially because, like all the philosophy, way of life, when it is emerged from a certain culture, that culture always has an influence. So, lot of what Buddhist iconography or symbolism that you see, the modern people may see them as very religious. Now today, we are supposed to discuss about the Buddhist view and conduct for today's world, today's challenge, modern day's challenge. Actually, the word modernity is very confusing for me. generally, and I think it's a little unfair, quite a lot unfair, modernity and modernization and westernizations are always put together, and that's unfair. Because for Buddhists like me, Buddha was one of the greatest modern person. He was one of the greatest revolutionists. He may not be wearing a beret or have a star, red star or whatever, but he was a revolutionist. 2,500 years ago, when there was strong belief in Creator God, he opposed that. He said, there is no God before us. God is created by the knower of the God. And that's a big revolution 2,500 years ago. That's a big modern thinking. And he also said, because we, here tonight we are also going to discuss something about conduct. He said, between wisdom and the conduct, wisdom has to prevail. That is a big statement of modern person. And you have to also remember the historical context. Because his time, there was a lot of moral and ethic and all that going on. So I always give this example. If wisdom, compassion, and the conduct or morality go for a drive, wisdom must be the driver. Compassion should sit next. Morality may be backseat, sometimes even in the trunk. But today, even today, right now, so-called modern age, morality is the driver. You look at the modern America, it's driven by measure of morality, even though most of them are immoral. And the wisdom, not even in the trunk, haven't even got the lift. So anyway, I was talking about the definition of modernity, the today's world, this age. When Buddha taught, he said, you have to analyze. You cannot take things for face value. And this is quite a modern thing to say at that time, 2,500 years ago. Even today, people don't analyze. People take things blindly. Of course, the religious people take religious script blindly, of course. But amazingly, even the Harvard University students take liberal value blindly. So-called liberal people are the most narrow-minded, most blind devoted, and most fanatical also. So anyway, I was saying this age, modern age, is something we need to think about. What do we mean by modern world, modern age? Modern age that not necessarily have made our life better. But on the other hand, antibiotics are good. Aeroplanes are so good. I was just in the Himalayas few weeks ago, and here I am. But whether they are absolutely a good thing, we don't know. Modernization, the quality of the modern world, such as we can have all fruits of the all seasons in one shop, within one day. Or you can read about 100 people's ideas in your smartphone instantly. Now this, as you know, this has been a blessing, but the very blessing is also the curse. Now this is something actually taught by the Buddha. Actually, I could argue that this may be the first sentence he taught. First, he decided not to teach in the historical account. After many, many years of meditation and penance, he then declared, saying that I have found something quite special, but nobody is going to hear this, therefore I'm going to just stay quiet. But by the way, this statement alone is something that the Buddhists study a lot, which probably we don't have time to discuss today. But then some of his disciples or his companion asked him, you must teach, request. So first thing he taught is what we call Four Noble Truths. Out of the Four Noble Truths, the first noble truth is truth of dukkha. Now, what is dukkha? Internet, for instance, is it a good thing? Yes, it's very good. But that good thing is also a bad thing. That is exactly the teaching of the dukkha. Nothing in the world is 100% perfect. Freedom of speech, is it a good thing? That is something that the modern world is really fighting for. People have died, people have been killed for this value called freedom of speech. Smart and savvy politicians have used that to, win the vote. But is it a really good thing? I will tell you a story. This was in India. I had lunch with a few of my American and European friends for about 1 hour, 2 hours maybe. The first half conversation is, they're all like parents, mothers, fathers, uncles, all of them. The first half of the conversation is how social media is bad, how it's ruining their children's life, how there is a sort of, cyber, sort of sexual abuse and verb abuse and so on and so. It's really messing up their children's mind. That's what they taught. And suddenly, I actually don't remember what's the cause. Suddenly, the conversation changed. Same people talked about how condemned North Korea for not having the very thing that they have been complaining. Today, our subject of our discussion is Buddhist view. Now, this is one of the Buddhist view. The Buddhist view is that everything, nothing, everything is, it's not perfect. That is actually, I think, a better translation of the word dukkha. I think many people tend to translate suffering, the truth of suffering. But I think dukkha is basically like everything is not perfect. It's not going to give you 100% satisfaction. So that is one of the Buddhist view, right? Now, you may ask, okay, so nothing is perfect. What's the point of knowing this? If you really know this, you will be liberated. You will be liberated from this false assumption that some things are perfect. Even the way you shop will change. Even the way you plan your life will change. That is the conduct. Even like between friends, okay, let's say relationship. Relationship is a very kind of important thing. You know, husband and wife, boyfriend and a girlfriend, boyfriend and a boyfriend, girlfriend and a girlfriend, whatever. You know, relationship is very important. But if you keep on remembering, it's not perfect. You will be immediately liberated from all many assumptions about relationship. A little bit more about the Buddhist view. Another Buddhist view is that not only things are not perfect, but things are also not certain. Nothing is certain. This uncertainty, by the way, does not always have to be taken as something pessimistic. You are not a billionaire today, thanks to uncertainty. Tomorrow you may become billionaire. You are depressed this week, oh, thanks to the uncertainty, this may go next week. But you know, on the other hand, if you are having a good time, we don't know. This will turn into a disaster this evening. This is another view of the Buddha that he taught. Now, I'll present a few more views of Buddhist, so-called Buddha. Then we will talk about its conduct and then the modern world. Then, so this too may be kind of easier to comprehend. You know, things are not perfect, things are uncertain. This much should be okay. I mean, this much should be sort of easy to understand. Now, little bit more complicated. There's a many different way of presenting this, but I'm going to use one particular kind of way to articulate this. The Buddhist view is that everything is illusory. Now, this is a little more difficult, so we need to sort of discuss this a little bit further. When I say everything is illusory, it should not be immediately interpreted as me saying things does not exist. I'm only saying things are illusory. So, which means I'm saying things exist and not exist together. You know, illusion is like that. Like your face in the mirror. When cause and conditions are together, there is your face. For 100 years, you can look at the mirror. It will never fail. There will be your face. Even though for 100 years, the face appears in the mirror whenever you look at it, that will not make that reflection in the mirror more real. So Buddhists believe that when the cause and conditions are put together, there is an appearance of phenomena. For instance, the phenomena of sound, like my snapping my finger, that came from many cause and conditions. My hand, my fingers, and also fact that there is no other bigger noise. But do you know who is the real cause of this sound? It is your ear consciousness. If you don't have ear, if you are deaf from the day one, no matter how much I snap, no sound. When there is a snapper, me, finger, your ear, fairly sort of silence, there's going to be sound. Beyond that, there is no phenomenon called truly existing sound somewhere inside my finger or somewhere inside your ear. It doesn't exist. Now this is a kind of a very, this is a big study in Buddhism. This is a, I'm putting it in a very, very kind of a easy to understand, so to speak. So, but this is one of the view that the Buddha taught, that everything is an illusion, nothing exists truly. Now imagine if you understand this view, not only intellectually, but emotionally, you will immediately be liberated from all kinds of hang-ups. Because right now, a lot of us, we have hang-ups. We have we are stuck with a certain, values, principles, sort of, I don't know. Some of them are principle of mass psychosis. Some of them are principle of individual psychosis. And our own principle, we guard it with our life. And we like to impose our principle and values to others. If there is a way to teach and impose fish to all the fishes that this is water, we will do it. Thankfully, we don't speak the fish language. So we never even try to convince them, look, guys, this is not home, this is water. But that's how so-called clinging to certain value, So anyway, understanding that view can really liberate you. Okay? One more view. There's many different views that we could discuss, but maybe I think we have discussed enough, but just one more. And this is, again, a little bit complicated, but I think you should hear it because I think it's kind of an important view. Even within Buddhism, they don't talk about this view, like openly, or not everybody, they don't discuss this. Just because it's more complicated and it's a little bit like it's like small shoes with a big feet, doesn't fit in. But still, you guys should hear this. And I think the Chilean will like this. I don't know so much about, Chile. I only read a very little. So from that very little, this is my projection. So I could be totally wrong. It's a bit like this, It's totally my own personal psychosis, okay? It's a bit like I would sooner teach Buddhism to Oxford graduate students than a Chilean who believes in ghost. Because in Oxford or Harvard, these schools, when you study that, the size of the shoes become smaller and smaller. People who believe in things like a green hair, ghosts, my personal psychosis likes it. You know? So, anyway, the view that I wanted to share is this. So, there is a term called Buddha. I guess that's where the Buddhism, came from. Like the Buddha, which is an important word. So Buddha actually, the real meaning of the Buddha or the Buddha is actually a quality. It is definition of a quality or a state. It means awaken, right? So, like today, when you separate tonight, when you go, your friends, when you go separate to your home, and as you say, okay, good night, and as you say, good night, see you tomorrow, if you are coming back tomorrow, for instance, as you say, good night, see you tomorrow, as you say, see you tomorrow, part of you think, well, maybe not. Because anything can happen. Not necessarily because you will die tonight, not necessarily that. You might get your dream job, which requires you flying tonight somewhere. So something like that. So when you say good, okay, see you tomorrow, but then the part of you think, oh, yeah, maybe. Then at that time, there is a little bit of a Buddha there, because it's awakened to the truth that it may not happen, But anyway, in Buddhism, the Buddha, the phenomenon of the Buddha is also, it's very vast. So, awakened being, awakened state, okay, let's call it. Now, the Buddhist view, the really high view, this is quite high. And this is what I'm talking about. I think you should hear this. This is what the Buddhists think. Even though right now you think you are not perfect. In fact, many of you may think you are useless, you are this emotional, you are so many, wrong things, garbage, you are not good, you understand? Aggression, greed, violence. So even though you think that's who you are, Buddhists actually think the opposite. Buddhists think, actually, you are Buddha. And yes, you may have all these negative emotions, seemingly negative, but Buddhists think all these negative emotions are none other than something called Buddha. So there's an expression, 100 emotion, 100 Buddha. 1 kilo of anger is 1 kilo of Buddha, basically. Now, let me explain this a little bit. So, emotions such as anger and the quality awakened Buddha. Okay, let me explain this. It's a bit like water and moisture of the water. When you say, I have a glass of water, You are saying you have a glass of moisture, what do you call it, the scientific word? H2O?
H2O.
Yeah. Now, they are also not necessarily one. Because, for instance, right now you can all look at the water. That just looking at the water doesn't make you wet. But whether it makes you wet or not, it is wet. So just like that, water is maybe your emotion. Wetness is the Buddha. And this is one of the most high, really profound view of the Buddha, and Buddhism or the Buddha Dharma. And you may ask, what's the point of knowing this view? This is actually really a very powerful view. Whole attitude of you towards yourself will change, even with the intellectual understanding. Of course, emotionally and practically, if you understand and realize, of course, it will change. So, these are very rough kind of general, very simplified so-called Buddhist view. Now, let's talk about conduct, ethics, conduct. So how do you define Buddhist conduct or morality? Okay? Now, let me just give you a very simple way of defining the morality or conduct or ethic of Buddhism first. Any kind of a act or attitude or discipline that takes you closer to the truth or the view that we have been discussing is moral and ethical. So let's say a Buddhist monk decided to go to Snow Mountain, sit in the cave, do a lot of sitting, all just so that he will gain the fame of a great meditator. It's not bringing him closer to any truth. So all his sitting, hours and hours of sitting, may look like ethical and morally good, but they are not really ethical. Yeah.
No es ético.
I know ethic and morality is a big subject, and now we were even talking yesterday that there's even a talk of ethic of artificial intelligence. So there's all that issues. But let me tell you 3 categorization of Buddhist ethic. This will maybe help you. Okay, so we call this Nyechu Dombit Sutim, Gewa Chudi Sutim, Sentient Tenji Sutim, Nyechu Dombit Sutim. Now this you may understand. The first one is Nyechu Dombit Sutim is the ethic of not engaging in unwholesome actions such as stealing, lying, cheating. You will understand this. A little bit more complicated is the second one, the Buddhist ethic of Gewa Chudichi, the ethic of acquiring and developing wholesome action, like practice of generosity, practice of patience, practice of, helping others. Okay, we should be, you should, I think, understand this. Now, the third is really strange. The ethic of benefiting others. That's the phrase. Now, this opens up everything. So, if it is beneficial, such as if by you lying, if it is saving people, You must lie. If you don't lie, you are unethical. If a victim being chased by a predator come to your house, you must hide. And you should swear, with your whatever, God, whatever. I've never seen such person. So can you see that Buddhist sort of very complicated way of thinking on ethic? But remember, ethic, you can put it in the trunk sometimes. The wisdom always prevails. The ethic or the conduct must help strengthen the understanding of the wisdom, the view. It sounds like kind of unethical to buy 4 different kind of hand cream every day. Probably, waste of money, environmentally not good, all that. But if somebody buys 100 moisturizer hand cream every day and still thinking, no matter what kind of hand moisturizer we put is going to change, it's not going to be same hand, then Buddhists will understand.
So will not change no matter.
No, it will change. No matter how many moisturizer you are going to put, your hands are going to get old. It's never going to make it perfect. You can even buy 8 moisturizer, it's not going to change. Can you see the, point here? Because when a person knows, no matter what you do, is not going to make perfect, you will end up actually not using more than 1 moisturizer or not at all. So this is a very brief understanding of so-called Buddhist conduct. Now, Buddhist sort of view and conduct for this age. As I began tonight's conversation, as I said that I feel there's a lot that Buddhists can contribute for this age. Go through one by one. Modern people will benefit a lot by knowing everything is not perfect. View or the truth that things are not 100% perfect is nothing religious, it's nothing mythical, it's not mystical, it's just the fact. And then same thing, modern people, if they can accept that things are uncertain, it's going to really benefit them a lot. Now the third one, everything is an illusion, that is especially going to help a lot for the modern people. Because I think one of the biggest obsession of the modern people is identity. There's an identity crisis. I don't know how many gender identity you have reached in Chile, but in America it has now surpassed about 80, right? 80, I think. Identity, men, women, Buddhists, non-Buddhists, this, that, communists, capitalists, all that identities is one of the biggest. And then, what do you call it? Avatar, right? Instagram.
Los avatar.
And things like you like thumbs up, you detest thumbs down, all that. So modern people, yes, definitely modern people's biggest maybe issue is identity. And the 2 views that I shared, things are illusion. And also I said 1 kilo of anger is 1 kilo of wisdom.
Yes,
that may help. That may help you realize that you don't need to be improved. You don't need to upgrade. And just knowing that you don't need to be improved, you will gain a lot of free time. Otherwise, just reading about keto diet or I don't know, all those things take so much time and energy and anxiety. So I feel this is how the Buddhist view and conduct can contribute to the modern world. It's like this, whether you are modern or not, you are stuck with something called mind. And this mind is something that you cannot just eject. If you don't like right ear, you can just cut it. You can chop off your leg if you don't like, or cut hair, whatever, Try to get rid of your mind. And mind, sometimes we want to get rid of. Like this table is sometimes much better than us. Like, I'm using this table now. The table doesn't feel gratified. Afterwards, when we don't use it, table doesn't feel like I'm useless. If I bring a very beautiful table, more beautiful than this, the table doesn't get jealous. Table doesn't get lonely, all that, It doesn't matter whether you are modern or not, you have a mind. And as long as you have a mind, you will need to work with this. And I can confidently tell you that among the systems and the way we have on earth, Buddhism perhaps has the most numbers of pages written about mind. In fact, everything is about mind. So, as long as you have a fear, insecurity, Buddhism is always relevant. I think I've said enough. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. And how should we do this? You just, is there a mic, or you can just maybe, okay.
¿Se escucha?
Sí.
Muchas gracias, Rinpoche-la, por su sabiduría y por todo lo que dijo. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your wisdom and everything you've shared.
En la mañana habló de 5 tazas y hoy habló de 8 cremas. 5 tazas, 5 aflicciones mentales, 8 cremas, 8 preocupaciones mundanas.
This morning you spoke of 5 cups, and this evening you've spoken of 8 creams, 5 afflictive emotions, 8 worldly dharmas.
I think you put it much better than me. Okay.
Ay.
There's, you want to ask? Okay. There's one.
Gracias. Venerable Rinpoche, yo tengo 4 preguntas en una. Seguramente se las han preguntado muchas veces, pero podría tener la amabilidad de contestarla una vez más.
So I have 4 questions in one, and probably they've asked you this many times, but could you be so kind to answer one more time?
¿Qué es ser budista?
What is it to be Buddhist?
¿Cuál es el sentido de la vida?
Which is the meaning or the sense to life?
¿El budismo es un camino espiritual?
Is Buddhism a spiritual path?
¿Cómo definimos la práctica budista?
How do we define Buddhist practice?
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Okay, first in the fourth one, there's a ready-made answer for that. They will say, if you accept anicca, dukkha, anicca, and anatta, I think this is better, yeah. Anicca, dukkha, anicca, and anatta. And if you live with that, you are basically the follower of the Buddha. So anicca, the impermanence, dukkha, non-satisfaction. Yeah, I think we already discussed this, right? So that's how you be defined.
And anatta?
Selfless illusion. Now I forgot the anatta is like an illusion. As if you accept these, and if you sort of live by it, then basically you are Buddhist, they say. And then the second question is what was it? Meaning of. What was
The
it?
meaning of life.
Meaning of.
Life.
Yeah, that's a more complicated question for Buddhists. Asking a Buddhist, what's the meaning of life or the purpose of life, is a bit like asking somebody who is dreaming a dream and asking this person, what's the purpose and the meaning of dreaming? So it's a very complicated. Purpose, so-called purpose, is in reference to a goal, right? Goal. And the goal here is to be free from delusion and suffering or non-satisfaction. Okay, this is complicated, so that's why it needs a little bit of, discussion. Okay, so somebody is dreaming, and this is going to be a little intellectual, okay? So be warned. I'm giving you warning. Okay, somebody is dreaming. What does it mean? It means that it's also not really happening, and that is a problem. But at the same time, this somebody is actually going through real pain or whatever, joy or whatever. I would say if you insist on asking this question, then my answer will be the purpose of life is a bit like you should know that you are dreaming. This is not easy. Easier said than done. If you fall in the dream, if you fall from a cliff, somewhere in the middle, if you think, oh, this is a dream, then you can always just, let's just, let's fall more, because you are not going to get hurt anyway, so let's just experience this. Yeah, for a Buddhist, this is a little complicated question, because Buddhists also don't believe that there is an almighty person who writes the purpose. This is your purpose. This is your purpose. They don't. The Buddhists only think that, well, as long as you are going through anxiety and a problem, then you will want to get out of that. So in this sense, the purpose is to get out of that. Anyway, I didn't answer this properly, but I think this will do for now. And I've forgotten your third question. What was it? Is Buddhism a spiritual path? Very good question. Actually, I should ask you who speaks Spanish, what is spiritual? What does that mean? Because I have a little bit of a feeling when you guys are using the word spirit, you are maybe unconsciously acknowledging there is a spirit or a soul. In this case, Buddhism is not a spiritual path. Is Buddhism a spiritual? It's kind of, like, it's kind of a spiritual, scientific, all bundled together, Okay, I will give you the classic answer. This is from a very, very important Buddhist school called Chittamata. So there is a striped rope here in this room. And let's say the room is dark and you walk in. You think there is a snake. And you recently went to Africa and had a strange time with snake. And then you panic. Oh, there's a snake. And then somebody, your friend, walk in. Now, friend has to have, the friend has to be really skillful. If the friend is, okay, if the friend doesn't know you well, let's say you are a very frantic person and the friend doesn't know this, and if friend sort of holds the striped rope and says, no, this is not snake, and put it in front of you, you will die, heart attack. If the friend knows you and the friend is skillful, he may be say, oh yes, there is a snake. He knows it's not, but he pretends and sort of really try to grab and, throw out. Or also maybe switch on the light. Then big relief. It's just a striped rope. Now, so when you come and see the snake, and when you have this fear of snake, that's called samsara. When after switch on the light and when you see there's no snake, that's nirvana. But actually both are wrong, because there was no snake, so how can the snake disappear, Now anyway, switching on the light is not chasing out snake, because there's no snake to chase out. Switching on the light has helped you from realizing the truth that it's a rope. Also, it has helped you to relief from the suffering. So now you decide whether it's a spiritual or whether it's a, so this is it. Oh, there's so many questions. Yeah. Anywhere, yeah, there's.
Buenas noches, Rinpoche. Tengo una pregunta. ¿Cómo las emociones negativas o las aflicciones pueden ser Buda? Por ejemplo, la rabia, como usted lo dijo esta mañana, o el miedo, o todo eso. Gracias.
How is it that afflictive emotions can be Buddha, as you said today, like anger, for example?
This is a very good question, but I'm not going to finish my answers. Because it's like afflicted emotions is the appearance, how it appears, like the water, glass of water. How it is the H2O. Okay, more complicated answer. Now, emotion. Look at the emotion. Let's say anger. Actually, anger, the whole anger is made out of ingredient. Like when you make coffee, the ingredients are like coffee beans. Like if you look at every single ingredient of anger, it's all awareness. It's not like some, like lump of meat or some dark force. It's actually mental state. But this ingredient, this aspect, we usually don't utilize, so to speak. I mean, this is a very big question. Okay, one of the highest answer. It's a bit like diamond necklace that you are wearing, but no one told you that this is a diamond. And you are so poor, you have nothing to eat. You are begging food everywhere. That diamond necklace is useless because you don't know it's a diamond. If you don't know it's a diamond, it's not. If you don't know it's a diamond, it won't function as a diamond. In fact, you may think this is just so heavy, this thing that is sort of, like a luggage. Yeah, so this is a really big subject in Buddhism. And if you want to study of this subject, the Buddhist philosophy of we call Tantra, you have to study. Because the very word Tantra actually means that. Yeah. Anyway, maybe we have like two more. Yes, please.
Hello, Rinpoche. Thank you for being here. I have two questions. The first one is related to what texts or books we can study would you recommend to understand better this third principle that everything is illusory, that this is a kind of phenomenology. My first toxic love was Western philosophy, so I am trying to recover from that. And the other question is related to, I am an anthropologist, so we work a lot about the identity problem regarding, especially with indigenous people, especially with the problem of colonialism here in Latin America. And I think it is kind of similar to what happened to Tibet with the Chinese. So how can I work with a better perspective about this? I think it has to be like with the thing about wisdom about this, but I will like to know your perspective on this. Thank you.
I'll give you just some suggestion of one of the most condensed is, of course, what we call a Hat Sutra, but maybe a bit too condensed. Then there's another sutra called Vajrachedika Sutra, which is diamond cutter. Yeah, that's quite good. And another one you might like to read is Vimalakirti Sutra. That's really good. I sometimes say that it's probably one of the first, it really, it really deals with a gender issue, really incredibly. Now, these are sutras, words of the Buddha himself. Now, with a Shastra, which is commentary, there is so many. Of course, one of the most revered and popular is Nagarjuna and all his gangs, which became quite a big flourish within the Tibetans, Himalayans. But equal to Nagarjuna, there's another commentator called Asanga. He's also very good. And he and his gangs. I think his gangs is bigger. And it really flourished in Japan, Korea, and big time in China, such as what we now call Zen Buddhism. Now, you were talking about identity and the colonial thing. This is, I guess, part of the we ignorant human beings, karmic consequences. This is, I think, it's always like that. But I think as what you seem to be doing, I think talking about it, exposing about it may be a good thing. But you know, something more amazing is people who have been colonized.
Las personas,
They are more fanatical with the colonial value. This is the most amazing part. I think it's called what? Stockholm syndrome, right? I realized there's another syndrome. I think it's called Nina syndrome, right? Nina. There is a syndrome that the predator, they end up loving their victim, basically. Yeah, you can Google it. I think it's called Nina syndrome. I think all we could do is just talk about it. But even talking about it, as I've been, it's difficult. This is what I was saying earlier. I've realized that those who are most educated, one would think that their mind is more open, but actually much closer. So if only cats can read mouse's newspaper, would be really good. But it's really difficult. And now, thanks to algorithm, you end up always just reading or quoting the same thing again and again. Okay, maybe just 2 more questions and then we finish.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Thank you so much. You're so generous. And I hope you don't hold this question against me, okay? While we came from Seattle really early on election day. We had already voted. But I watched this movie, The Kinds of Kindnesses. Have you seen this movie?
kindness of kindness.
Kinds of Kindnesses.
Kinds of kindness.
It's so bizarre. So bizarre. I was hoping you had seen it. But
Okay, I'll make a note of this.
it's really great. It's very bizarre. It's like a Bardo movie, but about maybe fixation. But when I got off the plane and someone has had some rumors about who had lost and who had supposedly won, and I have some Trump friends, the first thing that came to my mind was I think you had told a Talopa quote, "What binds the fool frees the wise." So in this movie, it seems like they are they're fixated on being enslaved by a cult leader in one way or another.
Being enslaved by
Cult leader.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
yeah.
mental fixation continually, like they're proselytizing to be selfless in some weird way. But I'm wondering if you have some guidance for people that are going back to the U.S., how this not being bound, how we can be free. Thank you.
I think what binds fool frees the wise. That's something that we discussed earlier about the emotion as the Buddha. It's an
entonces
important question. I think, understanding that some of these views that we discussed earlier, this should really help. The uncertainty, nowhere there's a perfection, everything as illusion should really help. So, I don't know. Uncertainty, right? Who knows? The guy may end up doing something good. We never know. Also, illusion, that things are not how they appear. That applies even more true to all the people you are talking about. I always tease my friends from the West saying that your leaders are not actually your leaders. They're just a punching bag. You elect them and then you punch them for 4 years. They are, they're in the pockets of the lobbyists, sponsors, all of that. Myself, if I have the aspiration to become a, leader of the world, I would prefer to be a dictator. I will, take all the blame if something falls, but also I will take all the credit if something goes well. Yes, I know the freedom and the equality and all of that, but I feel that we the deluded beings, at the end of the day, we love a leader. I mean, the bookshops, half the bookshops are full with leadership, how to be leader. There's not a single book how to become being led. You know, like all is about how to be. Everybody wants to be a control freak, basically. How to be a leader. And I don't know.
Todos quieren ser líderes.
We human beings, even just to have a simple picnic, is better to have somebody just dictate. At the end, you know, it's easier, it saves a lot of trouble and all of that. It's a very complicated. We deluded beings. We don't know what we want. Also, it changes, right? What we want today, we don't want tomorrow. So it's so complicated. But anyway, a practical answer for you. If I don't know whether I mean you don't have to, but maybe there's a mantra called interdependent co-origination mantra. I think maybe that we should chant that. When you chant that, it supposedly changes the sort of the geomancy of the outer, inner, and secret world. So. It is, it's this following a cult. It's a very, I think, you know, as much as we supposedly, intellectually, we don't like doing it, but we also end up doing it. Not understanding the illusory aspect of things enough. This guy called, this Englishman, what's his name? Huxley. Many of the things he said is quite good. I think we are the slave of, things that works, like apps, It's very good, right? So, but then they dictate our life. Okay, I think we'll stop here today. Oh, one more question, okay.
How do we deal with our attachment to mind, knowing that the pinnacle of existence is this mind dissolving in impermanence, in emptiness, right?
How do we
deal with our attachment to mind when we know that basically the pinnacle of realization, maybe to say, is dissolving the mind in emptiness, dissolving this mind in emptiness? So how do you resolve that attachment?
There's many ways, but I think he should, for a very simple one, is really longing to do that, like by asking how to do that. It's called supplication. I think you should do that. That longing will lead you somewhere. Because already you know this is a problem. And that's already 80% job done. Okay.